good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever it may be in your time zone. You reached another episode of Paid to Cost Podcast, Loyalty Above Betrayal. Today we're talking about the Big U indictment. Boy, Big U, you in trouble, man. You know what I mean? You got a whole bunch of people sitting there talking. You know what I mean? And indictments and wiretaps and we in a actual we in a digital warfare, and we don't understand informants, how many guys working with the police, and they're right up under your nose. You know what I mean? They're doing time in these federal penitentiaries, true, but they're coming out, you know what I mean, as informants, you know what I mean, automatically working with these people, you know what I mean, for financial gain. So you indictment, you know what I mean, you got a 107 page indictment that we're going to be reading, through another podcast source that I tapped into my man's and them, and he got the whole indictment of this Big U a federal case, against, in California. So sit back, enjoy the ride, and let's get this paperwork party. Teflon Don, Paid to Cost Podcast, Big U indictment.
All right. So Big U has turned himself in. He has been apprehended. Him and is pretty much every time the longest one that I've ever read on here. But y'all know this video is for the people that don't want to go read it. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the document because it is going to take us a minute to get through. So right here we've got in the Central District of California, the defendant violated Code Section 18 USC. It says offense. They won't. Next section has items that they are going to seize, including Big U's Mercedes, Arlington, a lot of that stuff. But the indictment really begins right here where it says summary of the investigation. It says in February of 2021, the FBI Los Angeles Metropolitan began investigating in August of 2020. The Big U Enterprises is a mafia-like organization and long-standing to intimidate businesses and individuals in Los Angeles. In the 1980s, Big U rose to a position in the Los Angeles Big including murder. At times, the Big U Enterprise partners with members and associates of the Rolling 60s and other criminal elements for mutual sources, surreptitious recordings, including Title 3 wiretaps, search warrants for social media, records showing associates, cell site location information from numerous valuable information, and interviews of witnesses and victims. The investigation employed various additional sources and information gleaned through undercover purchases of firearms and authorized multiple Title III wire and electronic interception orders for telephones being used by certain subjects of the investigation, including Big U, Robinson, and Martin, and through the installation of video and audio bugs in a location. Since the inception of this investigation, the FBI, Internal Revenue Service, Criminal Investigations Unit, the United States Attorney's Office for the Central District of California, the North Las Vegas Police Department, and the Los Angeles Police Department, and other local aid to press to get juicy. It says, as part of the Big U Enterprises reported control of Los Angeles, individuals including professional athletes, musicians, and others intending to conduct certain type of business in Los Angeles, including
You go to California, you know what I mean, you got to check in with Big U. And so they saying, the extortion part came, one of the parts of an extortion had came where, if you didn't check in with Big U, somebody from Big U's clique came to rob you and take your shit. So supposedly, that's allegedly. So that's where the extortion part of the Big U coming in, where he talking about the check in, and where he was doing all this stuff on social media, where he was making reference to, if you don't check in, we're gonna check in all your equipment, we're gonna check in this, and we're gonna check in that. So that's why I say, we're in a digital warfare. So you got to be careful with the instruments that you use to get your word out there. You got to be careful with what you say. And if what you say is not found, then hey, they're gonna knock you right off of that right there. You know what I'm talking about? So if you can stand 10 toes down with what you're saying, that's what it is. You know what I mean? So everything is heard and seen. Surveillance is at an all-time high. You know what I mean? We're in the digital warfare. You know what I mean? So you got to be careful what you say. You know what I mean? Especially when you're dealing with gang shit. You know.
You hosted a podcast titled Check In, the opening theme song of which explained off the plane, check in. Penthouse suite, check in. When your feet hit the street, check in. Because if not, life titled Hip Hop Uncovered, it says, if I don't pick up the phone, that can mean death. U Enterprise used Big U and the Big U Enterprise's history and reputation to control Los Angeles through violence, fear, and intimidation. Big U entering his community through purported nonprofit organizations that he founded, such as Developing Options, and by soliciting donations from celebrities and grants from governments and foundations to these charitable organizations. In actuality, Big U and other members and associates of the Big U Enterprise use these purported nonprofit entities to enrich nonprofit entities to fraudulently apply for government assistance, using the nonprofit entities to falsify employment and financial records to personally benefit members and associates of the Big U Enterprise. It says members and associates of the Big U Enterprise would discipline other members and associates who acted in ways seen as detrimental to the enterprise, or other individuals who were seen as, including through threats and acts of violence such as assault, kidnapping, and murder. Henley Robinson Martin and Williams is loose controlled Los Angeles. Henley, Robinson, and Martin extorted individuals in Los Angeles for purported protection money when such protection was actually from violence committed by the Big U Enterprise itself. The Big U Enterprise. Much of the Big U Enterprise's structure and affiliates hip hop from California to Chicago. Big U admitted elsewhere to being on the run and conducting illegal drug activities while he was in. He decided to move back to Los Angeles to participate in the gang war after an association for the Rolling 60s by fighting other gang members. Big U has recalled that those fights were about dominating the Rolling 60s competition. Big U remembered he and approximately 200 other Rolling 60 Convention Center to establish him. Henley characterized his and the Rolling 60s moral code at the time as get them before they get you throughout the 1980s. Be crossed. Big U recounted serving time in county jail where he beat up other inmates for the purpose of establishing a pecking order within the Rolling 60s. Big U did not have a reliable source of income outside of the gang culture. Big U also became the manager of a hip hop artist Ricardo Emmanuel Brown, aka Corrupt, who was a self music industry. In 2022 on the podcast Doves in prison and recounted knocking somebody's eyeball out of their socket as well as committing stabbings. In 2004, Henley was released from prison. In the docu-series hip hop artist and serious about this shit. He was I liked because I felt like he was a leader. Big U claimed that he was focused on Big U's own words though. Show the falsity of his claimed reformation. For example, on December 31st, 2022, on an intercepted, let me explain something to you. If you would have had a problem with any man, color, creed, king, or kind, the issue would have been resolved and he wouldn't be here or I wouldn't be here. It ain't no retired, an activist. I pull up on your block right now and show up and show out. That's what happened. Corrupt connected Big U with Suge Knight, the former chief executive officer of Death Row Records. Big U recounted that Suge Knight assisted him and lead Big U Enterprise. In approximately 2008, Big U formed a relationship with the hip hop artist Aramis Joseph Ashkadam, aka Nipsey Hussle. After several years, Big U temporarily left the industry after he had been falling out with Nipsey Hussle related to some equipment that was at Big U's shop. Big U recounted in the docuseries that Nipsey Hussle made a diss song about him. And I think the song they're talking about there is Nipsey Hussle's song, You Don't Got a Clue. But Big U said that he is a scrapper, not a rapper. Henley stated in this docuseries that even after they settled their differences, he picked up Nipsey Hussle one morning so that Nipsey Hussle could get disciplined for the diss song. However, Nipsey Hussle's brother intervened and told Big U that Nipsey Hussle was not going anywhere. LAPD reports documented that violence erupted, and when LAPD a couple of years ago, Black Sam was actually arrested because of this altercation. Nipsey, Big U, Black Sam, they got into it. Black Sam ended up firing a shot into the air to kind of try to calm the situation down. That's what they're talking about right here. It says in 2019, Nipsey Hussle was murdered by a member of the Rolling 60s. Now it goes on to lay out some more. It says the check-in. Big U and his enterprise are widely known for requiring a check-in for out-of-town entertainers or gang members that come to Los Angeles. As Big U described in the docuseries, if I don't answer the phone, it can mean death for someone else. Everywhere there's someone like me, and you can't put a monetary value on his touch in hip-hop. After more than 3 decades as a Rolling 60s member and several years managing famous hip-hop artist, Big U was widely regarded as an original gangster or OG. In the docuseries,
you got to also remember, excuse me, you got to also remember that the guy that supposedly had killed Nipsey was a member of the Rolling 60s. And if you're a member of the Rolling 60s, you gotta think. Big U is supposed to be the face of the Rolling 60s. So a guy to get out of penitentiary and he's a member of the Rolling 60s. You don't think that Big U know who, what, and why this guy here? You know what I mean? So you gotta remember. I seen an interview where Big U was talking, and he was talking about he had Nipsey under contract from I want to say 2008 to 2010. And just think about it. He was murdered in 2019, and Victory Lap was, what I mean, that took them over. Took them over, overboard. That was it right there. So just imagine how much, he would get, as far as that, his cut as far as Victory Lap if he had Nipsey up under a contract. And you got to believe, they got these guys under contract. They also got insurance on them. So, that's why when they tell you that, people are, worth more dead than alive, that's what they mean. Just think about it. Paid to Cost podcast. Let's get it. Big new indictment.
Andre Young, aka Dr. Dre, explain Bimmy and Steve LaBelle, the CEO of A2Z Entertainment, stressed that it is important to know the right people, such as Big say, I created these laws, so I enforce them. All we coming for is our portion. Trick further explained that he instituted a no-fly zone in Detroit and violence. Big U also provided examples of individuals who do not check in with him until it's too late. Different, which I believe indicates that he purports to own and control Los Angeles through Big U Enterprise. How Big U were two failures to check in. To CW1, who told the FBI about these check-ins. CW also said that Big U led a money-making gang that was distinct from the Rolling 60s, referring to the Big U Enterprise. According to CW1, rap artists, athletes, and other individuals needed the fees that Big U collected were extortion payments. CW1 then recounted that a large buy-in dice game occurred in Los Angeles and AB's associates, and several prominent NBA players. According to CW1, AB and his associates fixed the game and cheated the NBA players out of millions of members of the Rolling 60s ultimately arrived, and Big U used them to press AB. CW1 said that Big U was involved with the incident. Involved parties, celebrities in Los Angeles. In advance from Big U to ensure their safety at advertising shoots. CW1 said that these celebrities would have to seek and or pay Big U for protection and approval or face retaliation from Big U Enterprise. Investigation victim one was identified as an extortion victim. Victim one is described further below, and it's got a as well as violation of California Penal Code Section 23. In this case, in his unrelated pending drug case from the United States Attorney's Office in the Southern District of Ohio. Now, I don't know who this person is, but man, they did a lot to try to 2020 conducted a consensually monitored meeting with Big U and other unidentified individuals. During the meeting, Big U told victim one and others that he got into it with AB after AB and a said that he generated this information and that AB was confirmed you regarding the game. It says supposedly legitimate businesses and charities used by the Big U Enterprise. Big U and Martin formed the independent record label Unique Music in 1996 and 2004. Flipping Options does business as many other entities, including the Crenshaw Rams youth football team, which is designed to give underprivileged children a to achieve its objectives. In the docu-series, Big U indicated that developing options was a platform he used has been the recipient of an annual $550,000 as part of a GRYD program. Options was allotted $2.352 million from the city of Los. Reportedly, each tractor must comply with. The detailed and extensive handbook has many ruling and approval of employees attend other entities, which the victim donors believe will further a charitable purpose, but often instead are embodied under the guise of gang intervention work. Henley also fraudulently applied for federal pandemic relief loans for his entities, including developing successfully obtained, are discussed further below. Similarly, Big U and Martin helped one of their employees at developing options, i.e.
That's what they're talking about. They're talking about he fraudulently obtained money by using his non-profit organization as a front for the kickbacks with money. And you got to remember, anytime you're dealing with this government and you got these non-profit organizations, they're inside your business. You know what I mean? You know, it's not that they know nothing about you. You know what I mean? You know, whether you know it or not. You know, you're not going to get money and they're not really, investigating. You know, and that's where people, shortcomings come at when they don't think that the government is steady watching and steady watching them. Even when you quote unquote clear your name, clean yourself up, you still being watched. And so that's why, it's coming back to hunting, you know what I mean? Because we had that digital warfare, you know what I mean? That, that's tended to play because everybody's talking on this computer shit, you know what I mean? And you get on these podcasts and just running your mouth. You know what I mean? You guys shut the fuck up sometime, you know what I mean? What you say can and will be held against you. That's what you got to remember.
Apply for a mortgage by manipulating his to members and associates by we're gonna go over here. It says on that morning, ED detectives discovered the body of RW lying.
Before we go further into this, RW is a guy that's Big U's son's friend that played on the football team with him. He also rapped, and Big U had signed him, and I guess he wasn't really getting paid right or whatever. However that go, I really don't know. You know what I mean? The ins and outs of that. But he quote unquote made a diss song against Big, and you know how that goes. Supposedly, when you make a diss song against Big U, because I guess that's what they say Nipsey did also. So they say that he ended up being found dead in the desert of Nevada, Las Vegas. So that's that. You know what I mean? So let's get it. Paid the Cost podcast.
15 hours before his homicide, RW was at the studio. RW was recording artist and was at the studio as a guest of Big U, recording for unique music. And it led Big Witness. U was one of the last people seen with RW prior to RW's homicide. Witness 1 also stated that Robinson drove Big U to Law gray Lexus that Witness 1 in his security capacity encountered Big U and Robinson when they arrived at the studio. Investigative opportunity, obstruction, inculpatory statements, and more from Henley and other members and associates of Big U Enterprise. The murder shot 38 revolver with no trace. Based on my knowledge of this investigation and conversations with others, I believe that in this referring to Big U as the bro that makes some money, and the RW may get shot in the face for thinking his lackadaisical use of the studio and general representation by unique in 2023. Can't nobody beef with me, because if he do, I'm a killing. Period. I am going to M-word him. Damn, they had that on wiretap call. That's crazy. Killing people every day. The rest of y'all are retired. I didn't. They understand exception paramount. Witness to explore Big U through Big U Enterprises entities unique music was using witnesses to expensive, valuable recording studio to record the Big U Enterprises artist RW for free, based on the fear and power dynamic and physical RW time, thereby disparaging Big U name and his enterprise reputation, and potentially flouting that disrespect with the lyrics of the song, led to a dispute between Big U and RW. Dispute was so serious that Big U drove from Los Angeles to Las Vegas to confront RW, and that dispute then turned deadly. Throughout our investigation, no investigator, family member, witness, or any third party has ever identified any individuals that would have a motive or opportunity to murder RW except for Big U. As discussed herein, Big U's motive for murdering RW was in the interest of Big U Enterprise. It says here Big U's cell phone location corroborates his involvement in RW's murder. It says, I have reviewed the cell phone location information obtained via witness to visiting him in Las Vegas the day he was murdered, as well as an analysis of Big U's phones. Big U and Robinson arrived in Las Vegas on January 23rd, 2021, the night before the murder. Big U's phone data witnesses
that whole statement is like at this time of these murders, all this time. So all this information is going back to the feds that you know what I mean, that Big U got going on. You know what I mean? So that's why I say we're in this digital warfare, man. You gotta be careful, you know what I mean, who you with and who you around, you know what I mean? These guys get out here and they give you all these phone numbers and y'all call these numbers and all along, you know what I mean? The feds sitting there listening to you. You know what I mean? You gotta be careful, man. I'm telling you, you gotta be careful. We're in digital warfare, my boy. Check it out. Paid to Cost Podcast. Big U indictment.
that an Airbnb on Round Rock Drive in Las Vegas, Nevada. And this Airbnb homicide. Hey, Big U, through Unique Music, was paying for the Airbnb. Surveillance footage from in front of the Airbnb showed a dark gray or silver sedan arriving at the Airbnb and leaving shortly after. On January 24, 2021, the night of the murder, at approximately 7:04 p.m., Big U arrived at the studio. According to witnesses, at approximately 11 until midnight on January 25th, 2021, at approximately 12:37 a.m., Big U left the studio in the dark gray Lexus in which he and Robinson had driven to the studio was no longer there. At approximately 12:58 a.m., Big U's phones stopped reporting location data of any kind, with the last data recorded within the vicinity of the studio. At approximately 1:13 a.m., surveillance footage at the Airbnb again revealed a dark gray or silver sedan arriving case in the gray or silver sedan we parted. The Airbnb, though, was rented for another day, and RW was not set to leave until a flight scheduled for the following day came. Both of Big U's phones did not begin reporting location data again until approximately 2:15 a.m. Basically, the dark sedan arrived with RW at the Airbnb 15 minutes later, which is consistent with traffic call to Robinson, who witness one reporter was still at the studio, which is corroborated by Robinson's phone location data. According to witness one, Robinson asked witness one if he had seen Big U, which witness one found odd since Robinson was Big U's driver. hill from the roadway into the desert along with drag marks. Big U's phone location data shows that he departed Las Vegas to return to Los Angeles at approximately 10 a.m. Evidence.
Um, Now you gotta remember, like when I said, they, you know, his phone was tapped and they got the data and the information off his phone. Um, at those times where RW, you know, the his friend's um, son's friend was murdered. You know, his Big U's phone, you know, his data wasn't tracked supposedly. You know what I mean? So they got back online at 10 a.m. the next morning. See, but you got to remember, you know, in police investigations, you know what I mean, they just really base they shit around circumstantial evidence. You know what I mean? And that's where they basing this whole thing around circumstantial because you know they it was offline at these times. You know what I mean? You know it's tracked. You know what I mean? So therefore, you know, after he turned it back on, they find him where he had in circumstances and different plays. You know that into that. So that's why I say be careful how you know move around in this digital warfare. You know you got to really be careful because you know they tricky. They tricky. I promise you.
From the scene, officers and medical professionals responded to the scene with the direction that RW was dragged into the desert off of the highway. The DNA profile obtained was not the murder, and analysis of Big U's DNA profile was inconclusive, such that he could not be excluded as the contributor to the DNA. Watson, on the other hand, as a potential contributor, DNA found on RW. The next point is Big U arranges for the recording equipment. Witness one told NLVPD detectives that DS, which is one of Big U's associates, removed video recording equipment from the studio a couple of days after the homicide, including destruction of surveillance video data that would have shown RW of the video recording equipment. Witness one explained that 3 relatively new surveillance and working DVR devices had been removed from the studio and that all security cameras were disabled. Witness number 1 stated that the replacement DVRs were installed, but that they did not work. Witness number 3, who had previously installed the DVR equipment at the recording studio, also spoke with the FBI. According to Witness 3, on January 31st, 2021, Witness 3 went to the studio to Witness 3 to fix them. Witness 3 analyzed the equipment and concluded that the DVR system was unplugged or turned off. According to cause to conclude that footage from the DVR system would have shown an altercation between Big U and RW on the Jan 2020 murder. Bullet point 6, interviews of family witnesses and Big U enterprise associates. It says on January 27, 2021, his family confirmed that RW lived in California and worked as a musician. He was recently and Big U had booked RW's Airbnb and travel. RW's family explained that RW was close with Big U and trusted him. Big U coached RW in football since RW was young. RW lived with Henley for a time while in high school. At some point, Big U believed our chain belonged to the mission, and heard from RW and did not know his whereabouts. PM confronted Big U about arranging the trip in Las Vegas, and then Big U admitted he had done so. PM had overheard Big U speaking with someone named KF, whom this investigation, PM said that Big U would call her on a weekly basis prior to the murder. But after that call on January 27, 2021, PM never again heard from Big U. NLVPD also learned that CA, a friend of RW, spent the weekend in Las Vegas and visited RW at RW's Airbnb. According to CA, at about 2 a.m. on Sunday morning, January 24, 2021, Big U came to the area and claimed that Big U actually took the time to show up at the Airbnb in Las Vegas to confront RW. CA and his PM from RW since. Throughout the entire investigation, the family members and friends who have been interviewed have pointed to Big U as the person they believe responsible for RW's murder. Within days, multiple people were sending Instagram messages to Big U demanding answers for what happened to RW. All of it went without response. RW's message to Big U regarding the price of a song was sent on January 24th, 2021 at 1:57 p.m. Big U did after RW had sent that Instagram message, and Henley presumably would have discussed the price of the song in an attempt to plead ignorance that RW was murdered and to avoid suspicion from law enforcement of his involvement in the murder. So they're saying that, Big U sent him a message after he was killed, but there would be no reason for him to send that message because they know for a fact that they had some interaction the day before Big U sent this message. So they're saying he only sent it as a cover-up. On February 3rd, 2021, travel arranged. KF was the account manager for Unique Music and handled the artist's travel needs and expenses. KF used KF's mother's Uber account to coordinate rides for RW while RW was in Las Vegas. RW's flights to Las Vegas. RW was in the morning, which was over 24 hours after he was seen leaving the Airbnb with his suitcase in a gray or silver sedan, and then he was found dead. It's so RW at the week of January 19th, 2021 through January 26th, 2021. Additionally, KF explained that part of his job was to arrange for the transportation of RW via Uber to and from the studio and reviewing the audio of this interview. It is clear that KF hesitated when answering several questions. Know the address of the recording studio in Las Vegas, even though KF was the person tasked with making the Uber rides before backtracking and stating that he did not order Uber rides for him. Similarly, KF claimed that he did not know while he was in Las Vegas. KF said RW did not go to the studio on January 19, 2021, but he was supposed to go every Las Vegas to book a room, but he used his own credit. Of the room, HT intercepted messages between the Airbnb host and KF and provided them to law enforcement. HT KF about the messages because she did not want her accounts. KF told her a murder and said he was trying to figure out what happened. Number 7, Title III interceptions. In 2023, after NLVPD attempted to interview parties about the murder, Big U and his associates made several inculpatory calls. First, NLVPD when he's home, but he was not there at leaving life. Anniversary of RW's homicide we're new to the case, and we're just talking to everyone who was close to RW, his wife, circumspect. In the hundreds of hours of calls captured that I have listened to, Big U's voice was notable and completely different on this because that Big U FBI observed on surveillance and in the months of the cell site location data that Henley was training and experience. He believed that Big U not returning home for 2 weeks and having one of his associates driving his car were attempts made by Big U to avoid law enforcement regarding RW's murder. Big U called to meet with RW's 87 says, as discussed above, DS reportedly removed video surveillance evidence of Big U and RW's presence at the studio hours before the homicide. namely all of to confront witness two to see if he talked to law. 21st, 2023, Big U received a phone call from his son. Big U's son told him the NLVPD called him about RW and suggested that detectives had spoken to SH, Big U's wife, and Big U already. Big U told his son that his other phone. Big U requested for Martin to call him. Later that same day, Big U called Martin to confirm that he was at auto shop. Still, Big called Robinson at one of Big U's homes. They ensure that any statements to law enforcement were either suppressed or consistent with one another. As robbery and violation activity by the and recorded meetings with Big U Enterprise members. The Big U Enterprise sets up and executes robberies throughout Los Angeles. Normally, Big U provides the target in the location while the robbery is committed. Then demanded $10,000 from this victim to ensure other robberies did not occur. Big U also directed victim one to identify other businesses or dispensaries that, right? Loose Cannon later admitted to this robbery and the aftermath on a podcast, on the No Jumper podcast, do something, and then the same people we do it to show up to the house like 10 minutes later as we trying to count everything, and we be like, agree, of course, he did that to two famous rappers. Loose detailed demanding $50,000 from the celebrity rapper R, or they would kill the celebrity and rapper MM. Says according to further No Jumper and Vlad TV segments, Big U then served a cease and desist order. Never been named in any court cases for the longest time. Well, that all changes today, bro. It says Loose Cannon's recounting of this robbery occurred years after the robbery of Victim One's dispensary and years after Victim One had already recounted and documented the robbery. However, Loose Cannon continues to discuss former Big U Enterprise business to discuss and threaten violent assault. Business during the incident, which was captured on video and posted to social media, apparently to stoke fear. After the incident, Loose Cannon posted a 7-minute video on his YouTube channel stating that he used to be big. The incident could have went a lot.
You see exactly what I was talking about when I sit there and say they get on these YouTube channels and get on these different platforms and they get to running their mouth. You know what I mean? You got this thing where you beat this guy in the head with with a pistol, you rob him, and then you get on your YouTube channel and you get to speaking about what you did. You get to speaking about you being an enforcer. This day and age is it's the most telling in this, age that I ever seen. They tell on themselves and they always point the finger at snitches. The snitch is yourself. You telling on yourself. Think about it. I mean, the self-snitching is at an all-time high. I mean, the social media stuff make people self-snitch on themselves.
A portion of the assault. Similarly, on February 25th, 2020, anybody in the same video, Williams walked through the checking in process and walked through the fact that he would rob any rapper. Rakim Allen, also known as PNB Rock, was robbed and killed. That they told him to comply and that they would get the jewelry later. Loose Cannon also walked through the kidnapping of a famous rapper that Loose and Big U committed together, and then discussed several Big U Enterprise associates being good in Los Angeles because they have checked in. Some of those mentioned were developing options donors or former NBA players who have provided hundreds of thousands of dollars as purported gifts to Big U personally. In February 2025, Loose, and then when Loose Cannon found him, that Loose was going to do something bad to him. And I got bullet point 3 further evidence of the Big U Enterprise's involvement in robberies. It says throughout this investigation, the FBI obtained many recordings of Big U Enterprise members and associates discussing robberies that they were committing or planning to commit. For example, on August 6, 2021, ain't even home business. In my training and experience and investigation into this case, lick is consistently used as slang for robbery. Similarly, on June 22nd, 2022, on another recorded call, Robinson told victim one that Big U had been asking Robinson if they needed to do a takeover, which I know based on my training and experience and participation in this investigation to mean takeover robbery of victim one at his bud dispensary again 2022. Big U told victim one, we gonna rob someone. You with the bullshit? On July 31st, 2022, Big U told victim one that he needed $30,000 to pay. Big U kept it on a telephone call shop owner that he knew how much he had paid the shop owner because the payment was proceeds from a robbery. In other Title III wiretap interceptions, I also heard Henley planning a robbery of an individual that had stolen equipment from a celebrity rapper using an Apple AirTag that was purportedly with the equipment. Big
However, when the and
and Big U coordinated how Mitchell would give Henley the proceeds from a robbery that Mitchell committed. Big saying that it ain't nothing but 2-3 racks. Blanton responded. Brick Baby said it was supposed to be between 5 to 10. Got a visual in the near future. Section F, extortion in violation of the Hobbs Act. It says a significant portion of the Big U Enterprise's conduct consists of various extortion schemes and laws, and both legitimate and illegitimate businesses alike, though it tends to get businesses. One of his extortion victims, victim one, was a promoter and marketer who in interstate commerce and worked illegally conversation if the victims did not pay the fee to Big U. As stated above, the July 5th, 2021 robbery was key to their scheme of extorting victim one, and that once victim was robbed, victim one would not have to pay extra money to Big U for the return of his property. It was Big U Enterprise members and associates who were the ones who had robbed victim one of his property that they themselves stole and demanding more money and targets to rob. The evidence supporting the Big U Enterprise's extortion activities include consensual recordings made by victim one of phone calls, meetings, and controlled extortion payments. 2 statements describing being a victim of the extortion scheme from victim one. Title 3 wiretap calls, discussing extortion and payment, and 4 threats actually monitored call with victim 1 in which Robinson asked victim 1 with identifying additional robbery victims for Big U and Robinson, where victim 1 were owed Big U portion of what victim 1 quote unquote owed on September 2nd, 2020. Consensually recorded call in which Robinson told victim 1 that he needed to tell Big U something about the amount of money that victim 1 and Robinson discussed. You stated that he wanted his money. Later in the day, victim 1 and Robinson discussed how victim 1 was being taxed by Robinson and Big U. On the 23rd, there was another phone call.
Ten.
10/22/2021. Another phone call. Big U asking victim 1 why he was on the phone with him when he was coming to pick his money up. They then discussed how much will be paid electronically and how much would be paid in cash. Later that day, Robinson provided victim 1 with the number to this section. It says the FBI the $500 in cash for the meeting, and victim 1 paid that money to Big U on 12/11/2021. There was a recorded phone call. Big U saying that, well, I think he's gonna want at least 1,000. On December 17th, 2021, Robinson asked victim 1 how much he's gonna have. They again discussed both cash and electronic payments. The following day, they continued a similar discussion regarding what you see in bold is where the FBI is going to be involved. It says the FBI provided $1,000 in cash to victim 1, paid to Robinson for Big U. And remember, this was recorded. In the discussion, victim 1 discussed how Big U took the entire
Which
2022, another recorded phone call in which Big U called victim 1 and said, bring me my money. I need $1,500 real quick. Victim 1 told Big U that he had just paid Robinson $1,000 2 days ago on April 3rd, 2022. Another phone call. This time increased extortion payments to obtain the funds. Henley specifically said he did not care if they had to rob Peter to pay Paul. They needed to get down. And did all the work. Big U then arrived at the location. September 7, 2020, by Robinson consulting on victim one's anxiety and fear of Big U. They discussed how victim one can get more time to make a payment. But time victim one would meet for money. Victim one then paid Robinson $2,000 of FBI provided funds on camera. During the conversation, victim one asked what he was paying for. Robinson said, if anyone come to rob you, you ain't got to pay extra money to get your shit back. Robinson described the deal. People. September 21st, 2022. Robinson asked victim one for his location so they could get a payment out of the way. Victim one then paid Robinson $1,000 on money to victim for another payment. He paid him $2,000.
And from them, I mean, it's small payments of $1,000, $2,000, but you know what I mean. And this guy is on a large scale of 50, 60, and $100,000, a couple million, you know what I mean. And how's he allowing this $1,000 get him, trapped up into this, the indictment and this, this federal this federal RICO and racketeering stuff, you know what I mean? It got him with the extortion. You know what I mean? Those little $1,000 that he was, probably good somebody else, but just pushing, you know what I mean, the fact that, you know what I mean, somebody else was in $1,000 payment. Probably somebody that, how that $1,000 payment was going for somebody else. But then that's what got him. Just think about it, be careful who you trust. We're in a digital warfare.
Of his own money on camera. 10/2/2022. Robinson told victim one, yeah, I provided money on camera. 10/21/22. Big victim one because someone associated with victim one stated victim one told Big U that he had nothing to do with it and questioned how to get the money from him. That he would not get involved in the same up or get our money. 11/10 to victim one payments in $2,000 from the F and $2,000 on camera. $640 of it was victim one's own money. another $1,500 of FBI provided money on camera. Robinson said that he was going to tell the victim when I paid him $1,000. Additionally, Big U Robinson and Martin extorted victim to it. Deja vu. Big U deja initiated that he would receive roughly 33% of the bar proceeds from that night. Big U also promised that famous rappers would not pay the specifically 21.
as well as
The conversation between victim one and Big U the day of the party. Victim one, I was trying to get you about $20,000. Big U, no, 30,000. Victim one, I sold it for 30. The whole thing is for 30, and I got to get and give a F. You knew T.I. weren't never coming. And T.I. said he, and you need to bring me the money now. Victim one, I'm getting it from Tubbs and them later. Matter of Big U discussed various business details related to booking the event at the club and the revenue victim two was expected. Event this mother. You pulling up, and if we got to tear that mother uffer up, we are going to be ready for that or bring me my money. The night of December, there's Robinson, Martin, and 3 other associates took victim 2 into a back room and extorted $30,000 from him before returning to the main room to a party. Not only had they demanded a flat payment of $30,000, but also 30% of all the paid El Jefe $1,000 to transport 3 women from the Central District of California to Las Vegas, Nevada, to engage in solicitation and other crimes under Nevada law. During a Title III wiretap, the FBI intercepted calls and text messages between Vega my brother some head right now, and she going. I make up go to work. Ain't no plan. Following the interceptors interviewed Elle with pimping and pandering, she ultimately admitted to promoting this noting that she was known for bringing the for women 23 when she said she was bringing 7 women to Big U, and after which Big U talked to her and others about her being upset when they did not get paid right. According to Big U, she advised that the $1,000 payment was for her to close her food truck and accompany him to Las Vegas for 2022. Big U sent this lady a GM day at the FBI Los Angeles field office to download the contents of her cell phone. She was advised to not speak with Big U or anyone else about the interview. However, subsequent intercepted communications between Big U and others, including this woman, showed that
right after this lady goes to the the FBI and and meet with them, meet with Big U for this, and she goes back and meet with Big U. They recorded her. You know what I mean? Her phone is tapped. You know what I mean? How can you not? So they go back and hear her. You know what I mean? And speaking about what they told her about. You know what I mean? So warfare. You know what I mean? So that's exactly what I mean. It's digital warfare. So gotta be careful what you say. Lines, man. You know what I mean? Everything is recorded over these lines, man. Be careful what you say.
when this chick talked on the phone about what happened yesterday, presumably law enforcement were just trying to paint a picture. She did not meet at the FBI Los Angeles field office the day after her interview, as she had agreed to do, and has not otherwise cooperated with law enforcement since meeting with Big U follows. Meeting with El Jefe, for example, on June 29, 2023, an associate asked Big U if he received the photograph of the business card investigators left her 3 days earlier when they interviewed the caller about Big U, and told him they had asked about $95,000 she had deposited in her bank account per Big U's instruction. He was having a girl on the 30th, 2023. Big U told another caller that investigators had told this El Jefe chick that she was going to be charged with trafficking based on a recording that they had of Big U telling one of his partners that she can find girls known as women. Section H says fraud in violation of federal wire fraud and bank fraud statutes as a racketeering activity. Point 1 says behalf of the Big U enterprise and the entities it controls also committed fraud intent to the second CEO, also control a business checking account in the name of unique music entertainment. The financing the small businesses affected by declared disasters in or about March 2020, Congress passed the Corona aid relief and economic certain certifications under penalty of perjury. The applicant was required to certify that awful information in the future. The application included a warning that said any false statement or misrepresentations to the SBA could result in criminal sanctions, including but not limited to fines and imprisonment, or both, of $500,000 and a cost of goods sold of $300,000. The true 2019. Specifically, the total amount of money that came in was approximately $30,000, and the total amount of money that went out was approximately $35,000. Nevertheless, Big U claimed that Unique Music was operating at a $200,000 profit in 2000. True, correct, and complete. Then on June 26, 2020, Big U accepted from the SBA a transfer of approximately $89,000 non-extinct loan application and a transfer of approximately $10,000 into the Unique Music account based on that fraud. The electronic transmissions of the embezzling donations to developing options for the purpose of executing his scheme to defraud Big U transfers $20,000 from a donation from a current NBA All-Star to developing options. On our NBA All-Star, known as Donor One, the wire.
I want to say this NBA guys. I want to say one of them was Draymond Green, and the other one is Shaquille O'Neal, I believe. They donated. I want to say it was nothing but probably like $2,000 or $5,000. You know what I mean, to developing options. which is which is his non organization. Hey, how you doing, baby? Can I call you right back? I'm doing this podcast, baby.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I love you.
All right, like yourself.
It's his non-profit organization. So that it was what they were saying they was being extorted as far as for bribery. I guess it's the way that it was given to them. So we're gonna get into a little bit more of this. I just kind of like scratch the surface of it, but here we go.
Our transfer identified the donation as for charity. Donor one confirmed he provided charitable $20,000 donation by transferring the funds from donor.
I know when I'm wrong. I can recognize when I stated it was like $1,000. It was actually $20,000 that the players had gave to developing options, and a Big U have I guess he took that out of there and put it into his personal account. That's where they sit there and say that, and that's why I try to tell you. When you got these nonprofit organizations, that money that's there, the money that goes out, it got to be accounted for. It got to be accounted for because and you got to give it to the people that's
from a donation from donor two to developing options in early 2020. Developing options received the 24,000 developing options bank account on February 3rd, 2020. Investigators interviewed donor two's custodian of records, the charitable donation on his personal tax return. Instead, Big U embezzled $14,000 of the donation funds to his personal checking account. Big U made that transfer one day after the donation check, which Big U endorsed on behalf of developing options, cleared the developing options bank account. Donor 2 did not authorize any portions of the funds donated to develop. At the time, Donor 3 was helping Big U produce the Check In podcast. And I believe that they are talking about the developing options bank account. Here's another one. On March 21st, 2022, developing options received $10,000 from Donor 4 intended support a food program paid for by developing options, according to the invoice from November 23rd, 2020. Developing options checks from its bank account records show that the actual cost to pay for the meal program for $5,000 related to the meal program and $5,000 for administrative and office fees. On March 21st, developing options received the $10,000 payment. September 26th and September 30th, 2022, and October 7th and 11th, Big U transferred 2022. Developing Options received $100,000 from Donor 6, a production company. The purpose payment was a donation to support the Crenshaw Rams youth football team by covering the cost of December 13th. Developing Options received $50,000 from a foundation known as Donor 7 as a donation to pay for $100 of it to his personal bank account and various denominations pursuant to the grant award letter from Donor 7. All grant funds were intended to be used to support Developing Options social justice, verify sufficient amounts of income to qualify. Blanton then began working with this dude Hines, allowing options, and then his uncle, i.e. Big U, was his employee, fraudulently inflating Blanton's salary to temporarily support his loan application on January 13th, 2023. Big U and Martin was made to look that way to the mortgage. Next part, it gets into some basic tax crimes that Big U supposedly committed. These are probably the least important ones of the whole document, but he used the wrong forms when he was filing his taxes. That's what it's approximately $80,000 in 2019. He didn't pay.
We're gonna make that the conclusion of this Big U racketeering, indictment. Like I said, also, we tend to talk and belittle ourselves and don't understand that we're in a digital warfare. Everything is recorded, everything is seen. And moves are that under a microscope. So you have to be careful how you move around this motherfucker, man. You can't move. with the crowd like you used to. You know what I mean? There's no more of that. You know what I mean? Right now, you know what I mean, in 2025, we gotta move, you know, in stealth mode. And what I mean by that is, you know, by yourself in quick, fast, and a hurry. I mean, because Big Brother is watching. You know, they're not, the streets are not only watching, they listening too. So be careful what you say. You know what I mean, and be careful what you do. You know what I mean. You know, that thing called tell a lie vision. You know what I mean. It's true. You know what I mean, be careful what you say. Be careful what you know who you say it to. Pentecost Podcast. Your boy Teflon. Big new indictment. Push that like and that subscribe button, you know, for more content. You know, you know, I appreciate you guys, so get this content thing going. Pay the Cost Podcast. Let's get it. Liking that share button and subscribe to my channel.